So yeah, when I was 7, if you said to me, you're gonna be a manager for multimedia and audiovisual services, I'd have laughed you out of town. I'd be like, Ryan, what are you talking about?
You're listening to the AVIT Amplifier. Each week, we'll feature voices and ideas that need to be amplified in the higher education and pro-AV IT communities. This show is brought to you by higheredav.com. And now here's your host, Ryan Gray.
Well, hello everybody, and thank you for clicking on the button again for the AVIT Amplifier. I am your host, Ryan Gray, and if it is Wednesday, your feed is refreshed with new content, and today is no exception. I'm very excited, if you can hear it in my voice today, for today's guest, because one of my favorite people, and somebody that I don't get to talk to that much, but today, not only do I get to talk to him, all the rest of you get to hear from him also. So, Lyle, welcome to the show. Would you please let everybody know who you are and what you do?
Hi, everybody. My name is Lisle Waldron. I am the Multimedia and Audiovisual Services Manager for the University of Trinidad and Tobago. That's a lovely little twin island state that is the last pair of islands that we have in the bottom of the Caribbean. So if you've never visited, it's okay. It's okay. It's fine. Ryan gets to come and everybody from Hetma, but it's okay. I'm biased.
That is on the list, my man. And we got to just get out of the way at the beginning.
Yes.
Tobago, like bagel.
Finally.
Tobago, like Tobago.
Finally. I've sent you enough messages. It is Tobago, not like every American Airlines attendant says Tobago, right? It's not Tobago. Don't go there and say that. They'll get really upset.
Exactly.
You've been warned.
So we're on the inside. We know the right thing because we've got a friend who's down there. So we've spent a fair amount of time in the past talking about kind of the differences of life and education and working in technology and stuff over between where you are and the U.S. That's sort of everybody's baseline. And I'd like to get into that, but before that, I'd be curious if you'd give us a little rundown of kind of your history and how you ended up doing what you're doing, because you, sir, have a resume that is really impressive.
Well, so, I mean, how did any of us end up in tech, right? When I was a kid, my mom used to work for the airline. Trinidad has its own national airline since the dawn of time. I think it started off as BOAC, British something or the other airline corporation. So I always wanted to be, drumroll please, a pilot. Right, it's still on my bucket list. I've got to get my pilot's license. I would love to get an old 1970s Cessna 172 or something and just like island hop, right? Go see my friends in St. Lucia, go see my friends in Grenada and whatnot. So yeah, when I was 7, if you said to me, you're going to be a manager for multimedia and audiovisual services, I'd have laughed you out of town. I'd be like, Ryan, what are you talking about? What is that, right?
Yeah,
because we're
exactly.
talking... I'm old enough, I've got grays in my beard, I'm all distinguished now. That was not a thing. So I came into this because I'm just a nerd, apparently. 40 years into this thing called life, I found out I'm autistic on the spectrum. So I'm a high-functioning autistic person. Means I talk too much with people I like. I talk too much when I'm nervous. And I don't talk at all when I'm around people I don't like, basically. Right? But I get out of school, I start getting like odd jobs here and there to just help people with computer stuff. I end up working for the University of the West Indies. So that is the regional university. They currently have, I believe, 5 campuses throughout the Caribbean. The campus in St. Augustine in Trinidad, one in Jamaica, one in Barbados. There is a campus called the Five Islands campus, which is on 5 islands. And then there's the open campus, which is like their distance education stuff. I started working there when I was like 17 and a half, 18. Drum roll, please, as a clerical assistant, Ryan. So my first job in higher ed, I was a secretary. Like, I had the whole 9, right? My boss was like a lady. She was a lovely lady, Dr. Mohammed. And, of course, because she was a lady and I was a guy, I got all the stereotype stuff, which is why I'm so okay on the diversity side with this and wanting more women included. But, yeah, so I started off there. And one day she came to me, she goes, Lyle, you're spending more time helping out Chris. He was the chief technician at the time, than you are on the desk. I'm answering the phones, right? So I got transferred over. I started off in there as a lab tech. So we had a nice little Mac lab back in the days with Quadras. So let me see if I could date myself enough, right? So if anybody who remembers the old like Mac Quadras running, I think at the time we got them up to Mac OS 7 or something. And that was like so much of fun for us back in the days. And they were connected with ThinNet. Let's really take a time warp back. Do you know what ThinNet was?
No.
Okay, cool. So ThinNet, if my memory serves me correct, there were two types of networks we were using at the time. One was a coax-based network that I think was called ThinNet, and then we had the Apple Talk little dongles.
Yeah,
So
I
Apple
remember.
had their own little Apple Talk thing. It was like phone jacks kinda with the little white thing. The closest thing you could think of now was like those DSL splitters. So like I used to have to do all of that cool stuff, and then inevitably at some point, Ryan, I've got to go lift the powered speaker box onto the stand and carry the big, like 40-inch television. And I mean, anybody who's met me knows I'm like a solid 6'6" Rob Gronkowski linebacker. So, I got really accustomed to lifting the huge, sharp television, picture tube and all, balancing it on one knee while you hold open the door, the whole 9 yards. And that's how you get into AV. You lift TVs around.
Yeah, exactly.
So, yeah, exactly,
you're good
right?
at carrying heavy stuff. You're now
Yes,
an AV guy.
you're now an AV guy, right? It was worse for me because you were good at carrying stuff and you were little tech savvy, right? So I think one of the things that really defines us all in higher ed AV in particular is we don't take defeat well. So we're always faced with some new gizmo, some new product, some new whatever is the case. Oftentimes more than not an inadequate manual that too many of my male colleagues may not read because of our own ego issues. But then we go, we could just do this. So, like I'm thinking of like Britt and Ann Kelly and everybody. I just look like how we, when we are on the booth floor and for Infocom, like I just watch everybody. And there is a through line for us where we just won't be defeated as AV people. So, once you have that like, instinct in you, AV ends up being what it is. And at least for me, I was really big on service. I was fortunate enough that I started my higher education life in a school of education. And I've always found that to be a cheat code for me. So because I worked in the school of ed, I more often than not used to hear or be immersed around people who were teaching teachers how to teach. And, I guess because of how my brain's wired, I immediately began absorbing and finding those parallels into what I did. So how does my service delivery affect how these people would then be able to teach? And I remember that was one of the things once I started becoming more senior and supervisory, I would do as a training exercise for staff, Ryan. I would say to them, look, this is your first week, Ryan Gray, with us. Glad to have you. I would like you to attend this guy's class 2 days for this week. And next week, I want you to come to me with ideas on how we could make his class better. Yeah. Doing what we do. I always found that to be just, it ended up being really, I think, a beautiful way to inaugurate people into higher ed AV support. Because, you immediately, you kind of strike the chords of, I'm here for this purpose. This is bigger than me. I'm going to affect, kids or adult learners or whatever is the case. So, shout out to my guy, Kari in SUNY, because he's running AV over there now. But yeah, so, we got the band back together at some point. I had a couple of techs under me and we ran that for a while. And in many ways, I guess I became the thorn in the side of our IT department. Welcome to that side of the conversation. Once AV became more of a front-facing user experience, I think another thread through all of the lives of higher education AV people, IT departments became more utilitarian. So the days kind of went by when, the president of the university would have to come down from the hill and ask some guy in some cold comms room, could you pretty please put email on my BlackBerry? The guy would be like, no, you got the wrong version.
Right.
Go back to AT&T. I'm not doing it. So those days died, and then this AV thing became a very front-facing thing. It's very difficult to convince provosts, I guess, or department heads about switches and access points. It's a lot easier when it's a projector. So, sometimes if you're like myself, I've never been in a university where I've been folded into the IT structure. I become the thorn in the side of IT. So I'll never forget, I had a conversation with HR. HR is like, look, you're the star employee. You're the employee we want to work till you retire. Yeah. But we know we're not going to be able to keep you. We could see this. And you're causing problems. I'm like, what? It's like, you can't say this to these guys like that. They like, in the feelings. I'm like, all right, my bad. So I ended up leaving UE at some point, and I got this job offer at the National University. It was started about 20 years now ago. But I kicked in I think 2010. And the offer was the challenge for me. I think one of the things, especially now that I've had to deal with hiring and being on, job like placement things, is that what do you do with the person that you could see they have it? You could see Ryan Gray's, they have it. But when you look at his resume, he has 2 years and he has no supervisory experience. How do we bridge that gap? And I mean, it's one of the reasons I did my MBA in HR, right? Because I think it's really important that, at least for me, even faced with that, I was able in my interviews to sell myself as being able to do it, which is really important. But I mean, like, even right now, I'm going through some restructuring things, Ryan, and there's a guy that, you know, I have on my radar, but he was just on OJT a little while ago on the job training, right? But I see it in him. And I'm not afraid, because of my own path, I'm not afraid to put him in a supervisory role because I think he can. How do we get that supervisory 4 years on your resume if somebody didn't look at Ryan Gray and say, you know what, you can, let's go.
Give it a try.
Yeah. And I mean, if there's no space where it can be, it's this. Now, of course, I would have to mentor and do the leadership stuff, but, you know, I'm cool on that. I always say the technical stuff we could learn. We're going to learn it together. So, yeah, this long winding road has gotten me here. The challenge was, how do you support in the global economic crisis? How do you support Twin Island States University infrastructure that, unlike my last stop was a single campus, you know, huge campus kind of vibe. This one is going to be, well, at the time, I think it was 12 campuses on 2 islands. And like Michael Gunderson, shout out Michael, the staff complement was me and OGT. That was it.
Yeah, that's it.
That was it. Like, let's go. How are you going to do this? So, yeah, I mean, and I could always get into what I then had to do design-wise to make that work. But I'm actually quite happy, you know, decade plus having done like all the UB Tech presentation stuff, Avixa last year, of course, with you all last year. I'm really happy to see that the philosophies that I grew into, you know, have basically stood the test of time. You know, shout out Don Merrick from Florida and all of his writing and his work in the field. Don, I'm not ready to call him Donnie yet. I mean, me and Don good, but I'm like, I can't call you Donnie. You're like God to me. I ain't calling you Donnie.
But I'm sure he corrects you if you call him anything other than that.
I can't call him Doctor. So I have to go with Don. I have to go with Don in between, right? Yeah. But like, I mean, I remember the first time we met, because I'm a Tron shop. I'm a restaurant shop.
Yep.
And one of the smartest things they did, you know, shout out to William Strupp, Bill Strupp, my rep. He was able to get the executives to move us from LATAM, which is Latin America and the Caribbean, to the state of Florida.
Yeah.
So, fun fact, UTT for Crestron is a Florida school.
Yep.
But I don't speak Spanish, I'm sorry. Right? So I would end up like coming up there and just really being able to be a part of like roundtables and discussions, all those Florida schools. You know, shout out to Jason and the guys in FIU. They've done magical work for the past decade plus. The guys at UCF, USF, I mean, I could just go on and on, FIU, all, Emory-Riddle, like every last one. And, you know, having those interactions, I learned so much, but I also learned that, wait a minute, you right there with these guys, but you don't have 1/10 of the budget. You don't have 1/10 of the staff. You just the opportunity, you could like knock this out of the park anytime it comes to you. So, I mean, you kind of made the reference to, you know, what higher ed AV is like on an island. And for anybody listening, let me be absolutely clear. My faculty leave Trinidad, they hop on a flight, they come to the States, they go to EduCause, they go to, you know, their ICHEMs and whatever else agencies they think. They sit in your classrooms, they interact with your faculty, and they come back and expect me to deliver that to them. Yeah. This is non-negotiable, right? So for me, the experience is working in the States, but my budget is 7 times, my budget is 7 times less, so 7 times more, because everything costs 7 times more, right? So if the widget dongle costs Ryan $100 in Arizona, it's going to cost me $750 something before I start shipping and all that nonsense. Right. So I have all the same stuff. I mean, when I got to FIU the first time, when I got up there with Jason and the guys, they're like, yeah, we're a Zoom shop, we're a media site shop, we're a restaurant shop. I'm like, really? I'm a Zoom shop, I'm a media site shop, I'm a restaurant shop. They're like, what? I'm like, yeah. Looks like I chose well. And everybody looks at me like, you know, the Panopto guys are like, how come you didn't go Panopto? I'm like, well, this is why I didn't go Panopto. But right, but you know, so I'm actually in some ways, I guess the older I get, and the more I think about it, I'm actually very, very proud of the work that I have been able to do over the past decade plus on the island. I'm very, very, very proud of the outreach that I've been able to have in the States and the voice that I've had in the States. coming from such a small space, coming from somebody that does not look like Ryan, does not look like a Joey, does not look like a Erin Ma, but being able to sit next to all of y'all and have a say and have a share, and more importantly, because anybody could talk in the forest or in the dark, right? But to be able to meaningfully contribute. I've really reflected on that a lot of late and just been super proud of myself. I think there's so much more that I still have that I want to do. I want to contribute. I want to be in service towards. But I'm not going to knock the hustle down here. It's been pretty interesting to be able to design the way I do. One of these days, I'll give you the story of the job interview for one of the largest schools in the States a couple years ago, and the exams that I was put through in the recruitment process. Trust me, it's a different HR law, Ryan, when you're not from the US. We have to do things that it's illegal for y'all, right?
Okay, so two things on that, because one, you're amazing, because I asked one question and you just followed
answer
almost
5
the exact path that it's like. But on that, I'm glad you brought that up, because so two things on that. One is both sort of do you run into the expectation that because I'm from or I'm working at this Caribbean island, we must have lesser technology, lesser knowledge, lesser engagement? Is the prevailing attitude you get when interacting in the States, like people expect that, compared to us, it must be third world down there.
I'll take it. Well, I mean, obviously, fun fact, right? I think I saw this on the social medias the other day. We have an unrealistic expectation that Americans are really good at geography, but I think it was a British person was like, yeah, Americans don't really have to know anything because they got everything in the States. You got a desert in Arizona, you got Grand Canyons a little bit up north, you got winter right over there, whereas for everybody else in the world, if you're in Europe, if you're in Asia, you're going to have some traveling to do. You're going to live on a plane to see things, right? So in all fairness, shout out to Americans, you all should get out of the house a little more, but there are people who've literally never seen the Mississippi. I have. There are people in the States who've never seen the West Coast. I have. There are people in the States who've never been on a plane. I've been on a ton. Big, small, in between, right? But to answer that question directly, and here's a funny one. You're gonna get a curveball.
Let's go.
No. And the reason being that when I am anywhere, I'm always me. And the thing about me is I'm an enigma to most people. All right? I don't look the way I sound. I don't sound the way I look. I mean, I used to have dreads. You should have seen me in the dreads days. I had dreads halfway down my back. Y'all would not have known. Bill tells, from Question, he tells the greatest stories about me. He tells these stories and I feel like Evel Knievel, right? But I'm like, Bill, one day I asked him, candidly, I was like, Bill, why did you even take me on this little island, all these same things? He's like, Lyle, there's this 6'6" Rasta guy standing over me every year in Infocom, yo, what are you doing, Question? Get it together.
Yeah.
He's like, I'm like, what you want, my wallet or you want answers? So I've never had the experience of that question being asked, because be it a presentation that I'm doing for UBTech or for Hetman now, or be it me asking a question in a presentation. Once in Las Vegas, there was a panel discussion that had, I remember Question's guy, Fieldman, rest in peace. He was on it, and I think it was a projector manufacturer. I can't remember, a couple other people. And I'll never forget, I was in a line of people, because we're in this big hall, a line of people going to the microphone, and the guy before me was somebody from MIT. And he asked such an MIT question. And, they answer it, and everybody's bubbling over the question. And I come and I go, hi, my name is Lisle Waldron. Well, Ryan, you know me long enough. Once I say that, it goes downhill from there. Right? Let's just be real. Clutch your pearls. It's going to go downhill now, right? Hi, my name is... So I go, hi, my name is Lisle Waldron. I have a question for the panel. It's great for MIT to be MIT, and they can speak from the position of 3,000, units. Yeah. They can speak from the position of 3,000, I think it was Epson maybe, 3,000 Epson projectors. But what about schools like me that could only buy 5 at a time, or 20? Right. Do we have a say? Do you all think about us? Are we schools, or do you have to be MIT, Harvard, Oxford? Is that it? And the entire place started murmuring, because it turns out, and I've refined this over years, it turns out the majority of schools are not MIT, newsflash. Right. The majority of schools are small community colleges that are smaller than UTT. There you go. There are smaller budgets than UTT, if not for the exchange rate. If we did a dollar for dollar, they have smaller student counts, but they have the same needs of an MIT. How do those get addressed? And like he came down off the stage when this thing made a beeline like Moses. People just parted and he walked straight up to me. He's this little guy and I'm this tall guy, and he shakes my hand. He goes, "Kid, I like you. You hit the nail on the head." So I've never had, just to bring it back on question, I've never had that, well, you're from Trinidad, you're in the third world. Because I guess for Trinidad's benefit and Tobago's benefit, I'm the representative. So, people, it's actually the opposite. People sometimes have expectations from me that I'm like, whoa, wait a minute. Do you know I'm from Trinidad, right? I can't do that, right? So, like, I'll give you an example. I have multiple manufacturers that would love for me to, like, review their stuff and whatever is the case. Fun fact, you know this, but I used to DJ, and I have to say it like that. Even though I still do for y'all, I used to DJ. And my buddies down here, because I used to teach DJing, like scratch work and all that jazz. I have my Scratch Academy plaque somewhere around here. One of the guys comes to me, because he's a tech nerd like me. He goes, "You really should do like reviews of DJ equipment, Like Pioneer should just be sending, like Range just send you stuff." He's like, "Why can't you do that like them boys in the States?" I'm like, "Because we're in Trinidad."
Yeah.
That's where the island part kicks. Ryan can't send me, like Shaw's latest mics because it has to go through customs. It's going to get stuck for 6 months in customs. And I'm going to have paperwork. And that's the only time the island, shows its face. Its unfortunate face in that case, right? But beyond that, that's never a thing I have because I'm CTS certified, just like everybody else is CTS certified. I'm CTS-D, just like everybody else is D. I'll give you a funny story about that D thing because you notice I did not say I. Funny story on that. Right, I am, I'm using the same Shaw stuff. I'm using the same Sennheiser stuff. I'm using the same BAM stuff. I may actually not be using the same stuff because I don't have the money you have. So I had to think it through a little bit longer. I don't have money to buy one to test. I don't have money to get it wrong.
Right.
So even for schools that, and I know that sounds crazy, right? That is like, what is he saying? He's never gotten it wrong in 10 years? Of course, a ton. But not the way I see some of y'all getting it wrong, right? ADA is not a law in Trinidad. I don't have the Americans with Disabilities Act. However, I have to be as knowledgeable and as fluent in it, just like all of y'all. As a matter of fact, I would say more so. Because in addition to the responsibilities I have here, I often have schools that will reach out to me if I do something like this and they hear me talking. They go, "Really, you help?" Somebody will reach out to me and go, "Lyle, hey, I'm having a problem programming something. Could you help me?" And I'll find the time because this autistic brain of mine never shuts off. Yeah. So I was working on a planar situation the other day with the same buddy in SUNY. Some serial commands he wasn't getting across. He was on this thing for 3-4 weeks.
Right.
15 minutes, I sorted him out and sent him on his way. And he sends planar. Was it planar? No, it was not planar. It was, "Help me, name me a manufacturer that makes touch boards and one that probably is a HETMA sponsor." I'm thinking, it's on the tip of my tongue. It's on the tip of my tongue. No, it's on the tip of my tongue. Something boards. Oh my gosh. All right, I'll remember it. No, not neat. No, it's not neat. We close. I'll remember it. Right. But he sent them a long reply because he's in this like long support thread asking things and blah blah blah, and they can't get it done. And he's like, "Look, this guy's from HETMA. He figured it out, right? So this is what he did. These are the instructions. Don't let this happen to anybody else." Yeah. And because I have to operate in that space. I operate in a space where, if you need me, you just call me on FaceTime audio. If somebody is not an elitist iPhone user like we are, so yes, I have an iPhone in Trinidad. Gasp. I have an Android phone as well. I got a Samsung. So just call me on WhatsApp or whatever is the case. Yeah. I have to answer the call. And to be blunt, my dad lives in the States. I haven't seen him since I was a kid. But half my family's in New York, half my family's in Florida. My next half, yes, that's 3 halves. I know I'm being sarcastic, people, because I also have a half in Canada and I have a half in England, but this is how it goes. So I've spent, like, if I was to bring my stack of old passports and I'm not supposed to have for you, by the time I was 7, I had already passed through like 5 passports. Yeah. Just because I had so many entry stamps that they had to give me a new one. So I've spent so much time in the States that is actually quite weird for me that as I've gotten into my 40s now, I've kind of been settling into the idea that, you know what, if I don't end up sitting next to Ryan, I'm not even sitting next to, working under Ryan and just like sponging off of his brain, because there's so much that you do that I don't, that I would just love to learn and then give back to Yapavai, just give back. Like I had this fantastic conversation with some kids down at our performance academy 2 days ago, and all of their gripes were like, we don't know what this means in finance things. We don't know what this is. And I'm like just advising them because it's about the students for me, right? Like if I had that opportunity in the morning, I would jump at it. But at the same time, finally getting to like, I was 44 this year, some grays in my beard, I'm pretty okay with being king of the hill. here.
Okay.
Even though sometimes a prophet is never really revered in his homeland, they don't understand, they don't get it. You know, they see articles, they whatever is the case, and they go, Lyle did what? It's like, yeah. They don't know, and I'm okay with that because I'm not doing it for the likes. I continue to do it for the love. To quote a song from the Caribbean that somebody's going to be like, he stole that. No, I didn't. I cited it.
That's right. You did.
So yeah. It's funny. It's definitely not a thing that I have to ever worry about.
But that's a little bit of a change, I think, for you to say, you know, I'm sort of settling in of the idea of staying in the islands rather than
I ain't getting no younger. I ain't getting any younger. I mean, I'll tell you the cheat code, right? So let me whisper this. It's just between you and I. In all fairness, if UBC was to call me in the morning, or probably any school in Canada, I'm gone. And mind you, Canada's like tough in terms of cost of living, right? Canada is like Trinidad plus. I say that because like Amazon now delivers to Trinidad. Great. Which means I finally could get returns. Like before we had this very complex process of getting stuff to Trinidad, right? If I was living in Canada, I have to do the same things I have to do in Trinidad. I'm going to pay customs again. I'm going to whatever is the case. It's like, oh, gee, I don't want to do that. You brother, I don't want to do that. So let's just, just somebody could just get me to SUNY or something. It would be nice because I'm sorry, I'm a New York guy to my heart. I love the subway, as gross as it is. It's weird. People are like, oh, you could love the subway. I just been there since I was a kid. Listen, I'm not a photogenic guy. I have like 2 pictures that stand out. And one of them is me in the subway in like full winter gear with a smile on my face. And I will admit, I'm not like a softy, but I will admit that was a smile of I'm at home.
Yeah.
So don't take it the wrong way. I mean, home is where the heart is, right? I always have 4 suitcases empty, ready to rock at any point. But at the same time, I have the challenges that I would have sitting next to you, under you, you know, next to Erin or Joe, whatever is the case. I'll be honest, they kind of pale into comparison to what I'm still building down here. And, you know, if we were more positioned, so we're a traditional Caribbean university in that because of capitalism, all American schools kind of just revolve around budgets and money and then grant funding and state funding. And like you all have this thing down to a science because if you don't, you're going to close. There's no up or down. We come from, you know, the post-colonial days of the Brits and whatnot, so government funding does a lot for us in terms of our totality of our budget. I think in terms of UTT's budget, government funding accounts for maybe 80% or something like that, like 80-90%, right? Yeah, like tuition can't pay the bills for us. And again, this is like public information, so I shouldn't lose my job in the morning, hopefully. Curtis, don't be too mad at me. Shout out my VP Finance, a really cool guy. So, yeah, I mean, and because of that, we're not really in the cadence of grant funding or getting a Steven Spielberg wing or, like, we don't know how to do those things. So, you know, in the morning, I live in this perennial hope that in the morning, like, Bill Gates is going to go, hey, I want to do nuclear power and I want to give UTT some money. Just because. Yeah. And that day is the day when I will step up to the plate. I will be Mike Trout. I'm going to break the record of both Barry Bonds and Babe Ruth. I'm just going to. And I'm not going to be on steroids doing it. No knock on Barry Bonds. No knock on Mark McGuire. I'm going to do that. I'm going to be Patrick Mahomes. It's just me. So, you know, I just think there is something about it. Like, I mean, let's take Yapavai, right? Like, I know it's a small school in the context of the States. Yapavai serves its community very well, I'm sure. Or else y'all wouldn't exist. I have an entire country's fate in my hands. Yeah. Like, that's kind of big. And I am more often than not, and I say this to my president or my provost, oftentimes I'm more embarrassed to say, you know, this is what we're doing, this is what we're doing. But I generally get the sit-downs from people on my team, people from adjacent schools in Trinidad. They go, Lyle, you are on levels that we cannot fathom. The things you all are doing. I'm like, yeah, but we're not doing it fast enough. I'm not doing enough of it. And maybe sometimes, Ryan, we're just super hard critics of ourselves, being who we are. But again, you know, I am tired. So I need this vacation I'm getting next month, right? When you start to get tired, you start to think a lot. And I'm like, you know, it's not been that bad. I'm not a settler. That's the only reason why I'm not, you know, you can't keep my feet planted on the ground, right? So if I get a call, everybody knows I'm going. But it's a high bar, boy. From here to there, it's a lot longer than 4.5 hours. Trust me.
Yeah. Oh. No kidding. Oh, man. Well, oh my gosh. Like, what a whirlwind discussion of kind of who you are and what's going on. And the
you asked.
Like, that's crazy.
You asked.
you and your stories and the way you talk is just one of my favorite things to dig into. And the way, like, you know what I'm saying? Like, episode 2, I'm going to have to dig in on a couple of things you said there, because I can't
Trust
even
me,
get a word
notes.
in edgewise.
No,
Whose
take
show
notes.
is this?
I'm sorry.
Just messing with you.
This is Lisle Waldron
Yeah.
with my buddy Ryan Gray.
Oh,
We're doing
yeah.
the Lisle Waldron and Ryan Gray show.
That's awesome. Well, Lyle, you mentioned how open you are to people reaching out and ways that you could help or learning from you. So as we close out, a half hour, which goes so fast, how if people did want to get connected with you or reach out to you, how would they do that?
Oh, this is a tough one, right? So my name, no American can spell it. It's just like Tobago. It's really tough. So stay with me, people. L as in Lima, I as in India, S as in Sierra, L as in Lima, E as in Echo, dot, W as in Whiskey, A as in Alpha, L as in Lima, D as in Delta, R as in Roger, O as in Oscar, N as in November. That's Lyle.Waldron at utt.edu.tt. I'm sure you're going to put it in the show notes, Ryan, so I'm not too worried about it. That is the primary. And after that, just call me. 868-683-2442. FaceTime works. iMessage works, so just call me.
I'm telling you, you should just do it sometime. You want someone to help make your day? You talk to Lyle. He sends great voice notes, too. You know
just call. Just call for whatever. Like, yo, what's up? I'm chill. What's going on with you?
What's going on with you?
You having a good day? Nah, today's a rough day. Let's talk about it. You'll be surprised.
I got my head up in a ceiling trying to install something. What are you doing? You know what I'm saying?
Oh, God, don't remind me. I have scaffolding outside. You don't want to know what's going on next. Oh, Lord.
All right, well.
Solid half, though.
Lyle, thank you so much for sharing so much of yourself so quickly. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, I'm an open book. I'm an open book, buddy.
Thank you for sticking around for week 2. But I appreciate your time, sir. Thank you.
No worries, man.
Thank you for listening to the AVIT Amplifier. Tune in next week for more with today's guest. It'll be great or your money back. Your host has been Ryan Gray. He's on the tweeters at Ryan_A_Gray or find him on LinkedIn to connect. Please subscribe and give the show a rating and review wherever you get your podcasts. This show is brought to you by HigherEdAV.com. The views expressed here are not necessarily those of our respective institutions, employers, or sponsors. Everyone hang in there, go easy, and we'll be back next week.